Thank you for everyone for attending the Industry Leader Lecture Series, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. This hour-long webinar will be recorded. There'll be an opportunity for all questions to be answered after the presentations. Leave your questions in the Q&A chat box below. Now I'd like to present the Dean of College of Engineering and Computing Sciences here at New York Institute of Technology, Dr. Babak Beheshti.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome everyone to the third session of the Industry Leader Talk Series in 2022, hosted by the New York Institute of Technology's College of Engineering and Computing Sciences. My name is Babak Beheshti, Dean of the College. This talk series is co-sponsored by the IEEE Region 1. Our thanks go to Dr. Greg Adowski, the IEEE Region 1 Director. I would like to thank the College of Engineering's Dean's Executive Advisory Board, particularly its chair, Dr. Robert DeFazio, who has been instrumental in organizing this series. Please note that this talk will be recorded, and the recording link will be made available to you in a follow-up communication. Today's Industry Talk Leader talk is titled The Fourth Industrial Revolution. This talk is given by Mr. Tom Bianculli, Chief Technology Officer, CTO of Zebra Technology. Tom Bianculli serves as the Chief Technology Officer of Zebra Technology. In this role, Bianculli is responsible for the exploration of emerging opportunities, coordinating with product teams on advanced product development, and overseeing the company's newest business unit focused on delivering EAI software and data-driven solutions. The Chief Technology Office is comprised of engineering, business, customer research, and design functions. At the time of Zebra Technology's acquisition of Motorola Solutions Enterprise business in 2014, Bianculli transitioned the enterprise components of Motorola's CTO team to Zebra and was subsequently appointed as CTO of the new combined organization. The CTO team has driven the key tenets of Zebra's enterprise asset intelligence vision, which led to the formation of a new software business unit reporting to Bianculli that is responsible for building, launching, and ramping new data-driven solutions to market. Tom has been granted over 20 US patents and is a Motorola Distinguished Innovator and Science Advisory Board Associate. Tom holds Bachelor of Science and Master of Science degrees in Electrical Engineering from Polytechnic University, NYU. He also serves on the Dean's Executive Advisory Board of the College of Engineering and Computing Sciences here at New York Tech. Without any further ado, I will pass it to Tom. Tom, go ahead.
Hey, thank you so much, Dr. Beheshti, and welcome to everybody that's able to join us today and talk a little bit about the fourth industrial revolution. But before I do that and share my screen and the presentation, a little bit of background on where I'm communicating from. So I'm over in our building, our Zebra R&D center here in Holtzville, New York, right on Long Island, and not too far away from New York Tech, the local New York Tech, both in Manhattan and on Long Island. And you might notice some things around me. One is our some of our Zebra logo, and some of our taglines are on giving a performance edge to frontline workers. And I think that idea, let's keep that in mind as we talk about this fourth industrial revolution. It's not all about the technology. It's really, how do we enable people to be their best selves? And I think that could be a really inspiring way to think about this fourth industrial revolution. And one way to do that is to give them partners to get their jobs done. And you'll see we have some partners with us here today. Standing behind me is a robot that is part of an acquisition that Zebra did in Q4 of a company based in San Jose, California called Fetch Robotics. And one of them might be navigating its way on over to me here, moving around. And the idea behind Fetch Robotics is really to use robots in a collaborative fashion together with workers to be able to get jobs done. So think about a warehouse that's shipping e-commerce items that are ordered online and getting those delivered to your front door. Being able to do as many of those picks per hour and make the experience as good as we can for that frontline worker, enabling that picker in the warehouse to be their best selves, right? To get their job done with the least amount of friction, in the best way, with the least amount of errors, And that's what Fetch does for us. These robots actually can autonomously navigate a warehouse environment, pull up to a place where an order should be picked from. I, as the worker, would pick the order and put it in the appropriate bin, and then it drives off on its way for the next pick, and then ultimately out to the shipping station. And when I say autonomously navigates, it's got a lot of the cool technology in it that probably many of the students on the talk today are interested in and maybe pursuing as part of their studies. Things like LiDAR technology, using high resolution cameras for computer vision purposes, and being able to map the environment in real time in order to autonomously navigate that environment. So there's no kind of predetermined understanding of the environment. It's literally dropping the robot in the environment, and then much like we would as humans, it's mapping out that environment and then navigating it autonomously using something called SLAM navigation technology that some of you that are pursuing robotics and computer vision might be very familiar with. So let's just jump straight into things with that as an introduction. Keep some of what I just said in mind, and we'll take it away here into talking about the fourth industrial revolution, which I would say is the fundamental driver behind the on-demand economy. So let's talk about how the fourth industrial revolution is powering the on-demand economy. And to get started, I want to go back to January of 2016. It was the World Economic Forum in January of 2016, where the chairman of the World Economic Forum, Professor Klaus Schwab, said, "We stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another." And what he was talking about here is the intersection between the digital world and the physical world. And he went on to call this, in fact, a book that he wrote in that 2016 timeframe, to call this the fourth industrial revolution. Really the bringing together of intelligence, data, blurring the lines between the physical and the digital. I think we're seeing a lot of that today. I don't know, is Amazon a retailer? Are they a shipping company? Are they a pharmacy? Are they a manufacturer? One could say yes, maybe to all those questions. And then the way that they're delivering to us now is becoming more and more blurred as well, right? Order online and have it delivered in a moment. Visit a Amazon Fresh store or an Amazon Go store and be able to collect items conveniently and just walk out using all the technology and the instrumentation they have in that store to seamlessly check you out. So that's the brink of this technological revolution that Professor Klaus Schwab was talking about 5 years ago. Now we're 5 years further along. I think a lot of this is becoming a reality. The robots you see autonomously navigating the environment behind me and being deployed into warehouses had zero deployments 5 years ago. They weren't really deployed in any meaningful way for that use case. And now we sell at Zebra millions of dollars of these robots on an annual basis. And it's growing at a 75% compound annual growth rate. That means each year, the deployment of these bots into warehouse for e-commerce and fulfillment is growing at that rate of 75%, which means in just 3 or 4 years, we're going to see that go almost up 8 to 10x in terms of the number of deployments. So really some exciting things. And I would argue now we're beyond the brink and we're fully in this technological revolution. And so, what I find it's always helpful to do when we talk about these new spaces like this fourth industrial revolution is to take a step back a little bit and maybe put things in perspective. Because when you're kind of in the forest, when you're in the midst of such a transforming revolution, it's easy to lose sight of its importance, what it means, how it can change society. And what I would like to do in order to kind of suss that out a little bit is put it in the perspective of the 3 previous industrial revolutions. I mean, the fourth industrial revolution is right up there with these 3 previous ones, right? The first industrial revolution powered literally by steam and the steam engine that came on the scene in the 1700s, and then ultimately led to the advent of electricity and the use of factories to be able to drive the industrial revolution, primarily through the 1800s into the early part of the 20th century. And then, of course, as we all know, the third industrial revolution around computing, so connectivity, being able to make the world a little bit of a smaller place by being able to connect all of us, bringing mobile and mobile application platforms, the social networking revolution that's actually, in some cases, changed geopolitical landscapes and allowed, especially as we think about today and what's happening in Ukraine, being able to give voices and video and intelligence to the rest of the world around what's happening in corners that otherwise wouldn't have the ability to communicate that level of detail. So really transforming the world in each one of these industrial revolutions. And now you have got the fortune of living in sort of the early days. When I say early days, kind of the first decade, if you will, of the fourth industrial revolution. And that's really about automation, data, and intelligence. It's about being able to use the collection of all the data that we can gather from all these connected devices and things and people, and bring that all together into a layer of intelligence that can help to automate and reduce friction in all parts of society, in workflows, in being able to predict with sensors in an agricultural field with great precision how much fertilizer should be deployed to which parts of the field in order to optimize the harvest. And that's a real example. We've spoken with some drone companies that are using sensor intelligence in the farm field, in an agricultural field, and measuring different chemistries, temperature, local micro environmental conditions around the individual plants, and then deploying that information back to the cloud where it's processed, and then using drones to deliver nutrients and fertilizer to the field in a very micromanaged way, and increasing crop yields by 10, 20, 30%. And this is what I mean by using this fourth industrial revolution, not as pure convenience and technology driven, but to really make society and the world a better place. And I hope you as those that are on as students and those that are in industry participating in this revolution really think about how we seize this moment to make our contribution and make the world a better place to live. So with that in mind, let's take just a quick look at what's transpired, because we don't just make these jumps overnight, right? We went from that computing revolution in the 90s and we sort of led our way into this fourth industrial revolution around the Internet of Things, cloud, and this blurring of the lines between physical and digital. So if you kind of take a step back to the 90s, if you will, the world was really focused, especially the enterprise space. When I say that, I mean businesses, companies that were kind of focused on running their organization, more effectively. We're focused on these systems of record. And you might be familiar with that term. If you're not, think about an enterprise resource planning system, like a Salesforce.com, like a customer relationship management platform, or an inventory management system, or a warehouse management system. That's typically what we mean by an ERP system. And you see that in the center of the first bar there. That enterprise resource planning system working together with desktop computers, essentially, and the internet to connect people and systems together to become more unified and align better on plans. So it's really a lot about planning, implementing those plans, and making sure all the different structures, teams, functions around an organization had one source of truth for that plan, right? Then we moved into the 2000s at the advent of smartphones, software as a service. Public cloud came on the scene, really aggressively with Amazon Web Services in think about 2003 timeframe. Andy Jassy, who's now the CEO of Amazon, brainstorms with Jeff Bezos at a whiteboard in their office, and they say, let's take all of the web infrastructure we built for Amazon and turn it to Amazon Web Services and sell it to others. And that gave birth to public cloud and software as a service offerings, and the ability to deliver a lot of the value of those things down to mobile engagement models through the smartphone. That's what we really call systems of engagement. And then what kind of came on the scene is building on top of those two previous evolutions was this notion of systems of reality. And at Zebra, we talk a lot about systems of reality because that's what's powering the on-demand economy. And that's what's enabled by this fourth industrial revolution. And what is that made up of? Well, it's made up of smart sensors, like that agricultural example I gave, like the sensors that are in these robots that are able to allow it to navigate an environment much like a human, see an obstacle that wasn't there 5 minutes ago and navigate around it. So using those smart sensors, combining that with artificial intelligence and machine learning so that we can take all of that smart sense data, right? Because the data by itself isn't too useful, but if we can crunch that data and make sense of it, understand the environment, understand what decisions should be made based on maybe an order that was placed online, how much inventory is available in a store, how much inventory is available in the fulfillment center that's 5 miles away from the store, and make a decision in a split moment as to where that order should be fulfilled and shipped from to get to your door within the next 2 hours. So using AI and ML to automate those decisions, and then deploying all of this in kind of a hybrid cloud model. So it's not about the internet, it's not about a public cloud, it's not about a private cloud, it's about the edge, deploying computing at the edge of operations down at the robot, maybe some compute up in the cloud that associates and collaborates with the robot in order to be able to get that job done. And this is what we mean by systems of reality. This idea of sensors, analytics, hybrid cloud coming together led to that fundamental shift of going from the third industrial revolution of computing to this fourth industrial revolution of data and intelligence. And now, what has this resulted in? It's resulted in a fundamental business shift that allows for the on-demand economy, the idea that you can get what you want, when you want, and how you want it delivered. It's everything you want right now. I mean, isn't that what we've become accustomed to, right? With all of this sensing technology, the ability to have visibility through the whole supply chain, the ability to fulfill more intelligently using automation and robotics, and all of this sensor data to make better decisions has given rise to massive amounts of speed and convenience driven by what the co-founder of Twitter calls cognitive ease. So Ev Williams, the co-founder of Twitter, essentially quoted as saying, convenience is the currency of the internet, right? What the internet provides is the ability to get things fast with low cognitive ease and relatively low friction. And those that are differentiating and creating competitive advantage are capitalizing on that currency of convenience, right? It makes human desires more easily attainable. It offers convenience through speed and cognitive ease. And if you study what really big companies and big things, even from startups, are doing on the internet, you realize they're masters at making things fast and not making people think, right? Which you really don't want to have to think about certain elements of this. You just want your refrigerator to have the right product in it, right? So you can make that meal. You want a ride to go somewhere. You want the outcome. You want to get to your destination. So why not press a button and have an Uber meet you in an on-demand way? And none of those things, being able to deliver to your fridge, which Walmart's doing now, an announcement they made over the last couple of months, or being able to hail a ride via your smartphone, are possible without those systems of reality and the move towards this fourth industrial revolution. But let's take it a step further. Did you know that Amazon patented anticipatory shipping in 2013? And for the last 4 or 5 years, they've actually been using it. And the joke here on this slide is what you want before you want it. So what does that mean? That means they're leveraging all of this digital data on their website. Things like cursor hover time. Did you know that? So if you're on Amazon and you're hovering over a product, they're collecting that information. A colleague of ours refers to that hovering over a product on Amazon as digital drooling, as sort of the joke of, the digital version of drooling over a product as you're standing in front of it. And Amazon's measuring that, and they're measuring it not just for you, but for the collection of individuals that are using Amazon. And then they're preemptively shipping product to fulfillment centers that are near the homes of those people that are combination of hovering over those goods, maybe added it to their basket, removed it from their basket, came back and forth to the website multiple times. And by shipping it to that fulfillment center near your home, ultimately, when you do order it, now they only have to fulfill the last mile to your house, as opposed to get it maybe from a distribution center in the Midwest down to your local fulfillment center and then to your house. So Amazon's creating more and more competitive advantage in distance by implementing these types of smart technologies that bring sensor, analytics, and cloud together to deliver entirely new experiences. Some really exciting stuff. And I mentioned earlier this idea of the on-demand economy, and there's definitely this feeding forward of technology enabling new use cases in terms of on-demand delivery, and then on-demand delivery pushing the technology forward. And I think one of the things I want to impart on students, and I'm sure my peers in industry would agree, is that technology in pursuit of a, in pursuit of a problem is not really what you're after. What we want to be able to do is proactively link those things together. Think about the art of what's possible from a technology perspective. All of the elements of connectivity and intelligence that I mentioned from the fourth industrial revolution, combined with all the elements of what wants and needs do people have. So if the world is moving towards convenience, lower friction, faster delivery times, how can we use those two things together to take the art of what's possible and intersect it with what's valuable? So bringing what's possible together with what's valuable has given rise to this now economy. And I'd invite you to check out a Professor Robert Wilcott from Kellogg. He's got this quote, I use it pretty frequently, but he's got a lot of really cool ideas. If you want to follow up on fourth industrial revolution and the on-demand economy, check out something by Robert Wilcott that he calls proximity. And really what he means by proximity is that one of the most powerful forces that's going to reshape markets is the production and provision of products and services ever closer to the point of demand. So the idea that production, whether it's a physical production, it's delivery, or it's a service, the actual delivery of a service gets pushed by this fourth industrial revolution ever closer to the point of consumption, the point of need, the point of demand. And I'd argue, and we have done this at Zebra, that if you take that as sort of a truth, right, that's the direction the world's moving in. If you're investing, if you're learning, if you're delivering to move that agenda forward, you're going to win. There's going to be demand for what you provide, and you'll be able to also get thought leadership and differentiation out relative to your competitors. And as it turns out, although the craziness of the pandemic and everything associated with that, nobody could have predicted what was going to occur. But I would say that this concept of what's put forward here of proximity has been accelerated by 3 to 5 years because of the pandemic. It really forced e-commerce. It forced delivery systems, the supply chain to really get pushed to the point, and some would say, certainly, showing where some of the weak spots are, particularly as it relates to the supply chain. And so now more than ever, this idea of visibility, being able to track packages autonomously as they move through the network, these are all topics that our customers are talking to us about in order for them to deliver on the expectations their customers have placed on them. And when I talk about our customers in that example, I mean, think about FedEx and UPS and DHL, public carriers, large retailers that need to have this visibility from the point of production to the point of consumption in order to deliver in an on-demand way. It's really pretty profound. And you can start to really let your imagination go on the exploration of use cases using this as a North Star. And, this idea of believing in a truth, if you will, around a thesis, and then pursuing that truth and almost willing it to be the case, right? The best way to create the future, the best way to predict the future is to create it, right? As is often said. And Jeff Bezos had also referenced this concept when he speaks about Amazon. He had said, I'm sure people, right? What's a truth from an Amazon perspective is that consumers are going to want more selection, delivered faster for less money. And his point is, those are 3 truths that together are only going to move in one direction. It's not like we're going to wake up 5 years from now and someone's going to say, gee, I wish Amazon didn't deliver so fast, or I wish they had higher prices, or why do they have such a big selection? I wish it was just less of a selection, right? If you're investing in Amazon as their mission is investing in this idea of creating more opportunity for breadth of product, delivering that in closer and closer to zero time. So infinite selection delivered in zero time at the most optimal cost. And all the technologies we're talking about here to connect this fabric of connectivity and blurring the digital and the physical is really in service of delivering in that on-demand economy. And if you don't believe me, I mean, just take a look at some of the numbers on this chart. I'll just highlight a couple of them. More than 22% of Americans now are spending $58 billion per year in the on-demand economy. So that includes services. It includes ordering like from GoPuff or Fridge No More. For those of you that are familiar with GoPuff in urban settings, they're delivering now within 30 minutes from the time you order online to those items getting to your doorstep. Approximately 73% of all dollars spent in retail e-commerce are being done via the mobile device. So people are snack ordering, right? They're using that mobile computing to be able to place the order. That's creating many more transactions, even though the overall volume of goods may, be increasing, let's call it linearly. The amount of transactions is increasing exponentially. And that's creating many more picks, many more shipments, many more individual packages that are moving through that network, where we need this fourth industrial revolution to create the change that can give us the efficiencies to deliver on those expectations. Global e-commerce, by the way, just topped $5 trillion globally, and it's grown 50% over the last 2 years. It's going to grow another 30% over the next 3 years, or 2.5, 3 years, to about $6.5 trillion. And over $15 billion, or right about $15 billion, in capital has been invested in just the rapid grocery delivery segment. So that idea of GoPuff or Fridge No More that I mentioned earlier, Instacart, they're just that category of rapid grocery delivery. So I'm not even talking about the on-demand economy in general. Investors have put more than $15 billion into that space, and more than half of that, probably about $8 billion, has been invested in just the last 12 months. So it gives you an idea of the rate and the pace of change. And when I started earlier saying, hey, we're at the early innings, and put the other industrial revolutions in perspective, I think that data point that says 50% of this investment in that subcategory of grocery deliveries happened in just the last 12 months gives you an idea of the fact that we are in the early innings and the amount of opportunity in front of us. And think about using Alexa to be able to order goods. And as you see here, then Instacart being able to deliver that produce, right to your front door automatically, or Pizza Hut, who's now declared themselves as a technology company first and a pizza company second, using conversational commerce to deliver that. And McDonald's transforming their experience, and no patience required, because you can have that delivered to a locker near you in almost no time. And soon, drones will be able to deliver these packages right to your doorstep. Take a look at what Target's doing. They're doing some really interesting stuff by combining the online experience with the offline experience, the mobile experience on your phone with what happens and transpires in the store. Or TaskRabbit delivering services in an on-demand way through their application. Or Uber, which we all know, that delivers on-demand transport. Or Stitch Fix, that's using your own personal data and characteristics to curate fashion for you. Or look at what Starbucks is doing with mobile order and pickup, where you complete the whole transaction on your phone, and the only thing you do when you come by the store is pick up the beverage and enjoy it. So the part of the transaction, which is standing online and paying, that's the most enjoyable part, they completely factored out of the equation. They put that down on the mobile device, and then they connected that back to the physical store. So the only interaction you have with that Starbucks brand, if you use their mobile app and are part of their loyalty program, is actually enjoying the beverage that you purchased. And I mention all of this because I really want to highlight the fact that we live in a culture of what's being called liquid expectations. And what are liquid expectations? They're where each new and amazing experience becomes the standard to which all others are compared, right? So if I have that experience in Starbucks, or I have that experience on Uber, then why can't I purchase my groceries the same way? If I can order a ride on my phone, why can't I have groceries delivered to my trunk? I mean, why not, right? Just press the button. You know where my vehicle is. You know where I am. You know the goods I ordered. Why have to deliver to my house? Why not use my trunk as a locker? And actually, Audi and DHL, Audi the car company, and DHL in Germany are doing exactly that. DHL is delivering parcels directly to Audi vehicles, and Audi's built in a secure way of enabling one-time access to the trunk of the vehicle of the Audi to DHL for delivery. And now your trunk on your car has become an e-commerce delivery locker. And not only that, it's a mobile e-commerce delivery locker, because no matter where your car is, they can locate it, given the Audi technology, and be able to deliver right to your car. So this idea of liquid expectations is creating a new competitive landscape where traditional competitors are no longer who companies are competing with, right? the grocery store is now competing with Starbucks because Starbucks created an experience that people are expecting to have. And I think one of the greatest examples of this and one of the greatest opportunities around liquid expectations is think about an Apple Genius Bar, right? You walk into an Apple store, they know who you are, they know everything about the device you have, they know the state of it, they know why you're there, they know what you're looking to accomplish, and they approach you in a very informed way, and move you through the process and kind of offload, all of the stress and the waiting and the explanation behind that experience. Now, contrast that with a healthcare experience, right? What if healthcare was run like the Apple Genius Bar, where you show up and all of your Fitbit data, maybe all the data that's being collected via a wearable ring or a Fitbit on your wrist, all of your medical records, the reason why you're there for that visit in the first place is all seamlessly brought to the table as you arrive. And now you're engaging in a much more proactive and preemptive healthcare experience as opposed to a reactive one. So just something for us to think about. And I think healthcare is going to be due for a disruption very much along those lines as we move forward. So what I want to do is put some pieces together and play off this idea of the fourth industrial revolution, driving the on-demand economy, which we already covered, and then how that's transforming experiences, building on the liquid expectation concept that I just described. So first off, we're living in a world where everything is connected. 50 billion connected devices now, whether that's my car or my coffee maker, it's probably connected, right? And no doubt everyone's connected. 6 billion unique mobile users on the planet today. So I've got everything connected. I've got everyone connected. And digital intelligence has really hit its stride. AI is experiencing a 50% CAGR. It's growing at 50% year on year. The compute power has come down to a place where anybody can deploy AI. Certainly some of you, I'm sure, have. A few college students in their dorm can deploy an AI solution on a cloud offering from AWS or Microsoft or Google. So that's become much simpler to do and much more cost effective to do. So when I put everything connected together with everyone connected, together with this AI and digital intelligence, it really results in these transformed experiences, right? And just as an example of that, about 60% of Amazon Prime users with an Echo device use it at least once a day. It's transformed the way they interact with product, services, experience, and information. They're having a conversation with a device now, like literally a conversation, right? It's not like you're typing on the keyboard, you're interacting it through natural language processing and natural language interaction. So that's ultimately resulting in transformed experiences. And I guess what might be good to think about is, what are other ways we can take everything connected, everyone connected, apply some digital intelligence and reinvent an experience? Maybe it's that healthcare one I mentioned. Maybe it's preemptively detecting a healthcare condition before a person suffers from it, and we could take the preventive action before that occurs. I mean, I would imagine in the next 5 or 8 years, there'll be no reason to actually have a heart attack without knowing that that heart attack is about to occur, with very little additional instrumentation beyond what will be the Apple Watch at that time, plus maybe a slightly other additions from a wearable device perspective. So that's really going to transform experiences and, more importantly, transform outcomes and ultimately save lives. So, hey, how are we kind of putting some of this stuff together? I thought I'd have a little fun. Hopefully we have some Terminator fans in the on the webinar today. And so give this the first 5 or 8 seconds. If you're into Terminator, you'll see what I mean. And then you'll see where we're taking it by combining this everyone connected, everything connected, and some AI ML to deliver on new robotic solutions. So let's give this a whirl. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Before we get to that one, I want to talk a little bit about how we're using the instrumentation of players in the NFL to be able to provide location accuracy on the field. Apologies, I swapped my videos. So we're able to locate the ball and individuals on the field within 6 inches of accuracy, 10 times a second. So I'm going to run this short video. You'll see how we're using that in the NFL, and then how we are also taking that into industrial applications as well. So Zebra locationing technology using RFID, ultra wideband, lots of RF stuff for the IEEE and EE geeks in the on the phone to think about how we're using ultra wideband and the 5.7 gigahertz range to be able to triangulate within 6 inches of accuracy 10 times a second on the football field.
Following a competition among top global technology vendors in 2014, the NFL selected Zebra as its official on-field player tracking provider, introducing its revolutionary next-generation player tracking system, disrupting the status quo in sports data tracking, previously limited to one-dimensional GPS-based monitoring devices and optical tracking systems. Using patented RFID technology, Zebra's innovative system automatically generates the most reliable and analyzable big data set in sports to enhance fan and consumer engagement, heighten entertainment value, and produce real-time insights to assist in coaching and player evaluation decisions. Zebra's innovative technology has informed business decisions as well. In fact, our unparalleled operational intelligence helps boost productivity, connectivity, and customer experience for 95% of Fortune 500 companies, giving them real-time visibility into operations and the competitive edge they need. To advance the game for players and fans, Zebra partnered with the top football manufacturer in the world and the official supplier of the NFL game footballs, Wilson Sporting Goods, who's been at the forefront of football innovation for a century. Zebra and a team of engineers from Wilson Labs, the innovation hub at Wilson, tackled the tough engineering challenge of placing an RFID tag in a football that wouldn't affect the ball's performance or its physical dimensions. Because Zebra's system is a true tracking system, providing data in real time with an accuracy of inches, new applications were created for both fans and team operations personnel. Next-gen stats came to life, driving fan engagement across multiple media platforms, including NFL.com, NFL social media, Microsoft Xbox, CBS and NBC NFL game broadcasts. Zebra also introduced 3 new data tracking modules: schematic for coaches, tactics for scouting, and performance for trainers, who provide new insights into game planning, drastically decrease the operational load of coaches and scouting staff, and assist trainers in helping players reach peak performance. Another milestone achievement was Zebra Sports' successful completion of the largest global deployment of any real-time sport tracking system in the world, fitting all 31 NFL stadium venues in the United States, Wembley Stadium in London, and the recent Pro Bowl stadiums. Zebra tagged and tracked 2,500 plus different NFL players, collecting more than 180 billion bytes of position data. Zebra also strategically expanded into college football, providing the same game day solution it provides the NFL, and setting the foundation for improved operations and enhanced fan consumer experiences. Zebra Sports Solution was selected by the NCAA for deployment during the Fiesta Bowl, college football playoffs, and national championship game. Zebra Sports, forging new ways to engage fans while assisting leagues, teams, and personnel with insightful new data through innovative technology, continuing its mission as the driving force in sports technology.
So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of the way, in a very relatable way, I think. We're now talking about an enterprise-specific application of the way we're using this sensor technology, bringing that together with analytics, and then driving better outcomes, in some cases for the player or for the coaches in the example you just saw, or maybe even for fans. And so what I want to do is, in the last 5 minutes or so, because I want to make sure we leave time for questions, so I'll move through this a little bit quickly, but I wanted to pivot over to, hey, that's great. We talked about convenience, Uber, we talked about football and better fan experiences, and we talked a little bit about healthcare earlier, but did you know that medical errors are the 3rd leading cause of death, medical errors in the United States? And to put that in perspective, we're burying a population the size of Miami every year from medical errors that essentially could be prevented because they're errors in the first place, right? So what if we could identify every patient, every caregiver, every piece of medical equipment and medication in real time? What if we could use that locationing technology, that identification technology, the ultra wideband, the RFID, and we knew where everything was, whether that was medication, it was the patient, it was capital equipment that's being used in the operating room, it's instruments, and we're able to have real-time visibility of that continuously. Well, we can apply the AI and ML that we spoke about earlier to ensure that a mistake doesn't occur. Because essentially we'd have a digital twin of that hospital, that healthcare environment. We'd be able to create a digital representation of that physical world. Back to Klaus Schwab's blurring of the physical and digital, right? Create that digital representation of the physical world and then play through scenarios in the digital domain that prevent errors in the physical domain. And if we were to do that, what would we achieve? Well, we'll have significantly reduced the number 3 cause of death in the United States. We'll have virtually eliminated the 10% of those errors that are directly attributable to medication errors, which is phenomenal. I think sounds so simple, but being able to instrument and know what's being delivered to who, at what time, in what way, by what person, and what method, we can use all of that visibility to ensure that those medication errors, as an example, don't occur. And maybe more importantly, I want to mention something I started out on. I suppose it's not more important, but it's close to equally important, is that what a nurse or a clinician went to school for was not to keep track of all this stuff. It wasn't to document. It wasn't to deal with shift changes. It was to focus on care. And if you look today, 55% of a nurse's time is being spent coordinating and documenting care. That's terrible. The opportunity is for us to automatically coordinate and document that care through this digital stream, through this connectivity and visibility I'm speaking about. And imagine if everything the nurse did just automatically got recorded and they're not spending their time coordinating and documenting their care. They're spending that 55% of their time giving the care. That's what they went to school for. That's what they're passionate about. And that's what I mean by helping that frontline worker be the best person they can be. And you could take this beyond healthcare, take it into any vertical you want. Look at retail. Inventory accuracies in retail are at like 60 or 70%. It's a major problem with more and more fulfillment happening from the store. Well, what if you gave a digital voice to that store and every product using RFID or computer vision could become visible to the system? And now we have basically a digital twin of the store, and we have a system of reality that's telling us where every product is in real time. And I just wanted to leave you with kind of this inspiring thought of taking that notion of the 4th Industrial Revolution, connecting everything, connecting everyone, applying digital intelligence, transforming experiences and creating better outcomes, whether it's in the NFL and it's in the sports example I gave, or we bring it into an operating theater to save lives, or we bring it over into an oil and gas to drive better safety and better production practices within that environment. Or who needs it more now than the supply chain, right? Digital twins in the supply chain are a really hot topic, or out into manufacturing, or maybe even back into the physical retail store where you shop in entirely new phygital ways, physical and digital intersecting each other through that shopping journey. So some really amazing new experiences and new outcomes we can go create for the industry. And with that, I will wrap it up. Thank you for your time. And I'd love to open it up to questions in the last 13 or 14 minutes here. And I think Sarah's going to help facilitate that, and hope I inspired a couple of new ideas and maybe some even more excited students as you look at some of your studies going forward. Thank you.
Yes. Someone asked about how they can get a job at Zebra.
Sure. So we're working, well, a couple of things. First of all, we have an internship program, summer internship program. Now, I know I was speaking with the dean the other night, and I saw that, of course, New York Tech launched the intern program that goes beyond the summer program, kind of more of a co-op program. That I'm starting to circulate around within Zebra to some of our hiring managers. I didn't mention this to Dean Beheshti yet, but our head of engineering for our data capture business unit and our GM for a mobile computing business unit are both looking at that newly launched program from New York Tech. So that's one way I would say, go through that program at New York Tech. Let's connect back. Look at the summer internships. I think we've kind of committed to most of those, obviously, given where we are in April here, for this year at least. And then all of our positions are posted online. We have a pretty good way of seeing that online through our HR system. So get on the Zebra website, take a look at the jobs that are posted there, and you can sort by location, you could sort by function, and some of those will include internships online as well. They're not just all full-time jobs.
Thank you, Tom. I would also add to that in fact, tomorrow for the employers, we have a co-op information session. And as I was listening to Tom's exciting talk, Zebra will be joining that talk. So we have a lot of channels being established between New York Tech and Zebra Technologies for full-time jobs after graduation, internships, and co-ops. So stay tuned. There's a lot of exciting stuff that we could share. And also, Tom, while I have the microphone, I have a question I would like to ask you.
Sure.
So in the context of the fourth industrial revolution, so as it is being implemented, how could businesses future-proof themselves?
Yeah, so yeah, that's a great question, and I think that's a question we get from our customers pretty frequently. And I think what it's a bit of a tricky situation, because on one hand, the answer is from a very much in an architectural perspective, is taking a more holistic view at your operation. So let me give you the example. Typically, if we were working with a big CPG company, take somebody like a Nestle or somebody like that, right? They would be looking at, they'd have one group that's looking at how do they run their warehouse operations. They'd have another group that's looking at what should their inventory positions be. They have another group that's looking at what inventory should they buy maybe for the next 3 months so they can alert the supply chain the rest of the way. The transportation people would be a separate group. And what I would say that the future proofing answer has less to do with the technology I propose, and more to do with connected and integrated systems and people, and really thinking about how are you going to invest across silos? Because getting the product, to your doorstep or my doorstep as rapidly as possible really requires orchestration across the transportation system, what inventory gets ordered, how the warehouse runs. And so it's breaking down the silos. So very often, Dean Vaheshti, we start with that dialogue with a change management discussion. Well, how do you want to run your operations in the future? And how is that different to how you're operating them today? And then let's create a roadmap of technology that'll get you there. I think where things get deployed and then become obsolete and thrown out rapidly is when they're deployed in a siloed based fashion, because you don't get the interoperability, you don't get the combined effect, across the multiple stakeholders. So it's interesting. I think change management, culture, the ability to have a high emotional intelligence and navigate those environments are going to become really, really important skills for the workforce of the future.
So I guess they're asking, can smart vehicles in the airline industry benefit from Zebra technologies?
Yeah, so I don't know if the question is specifically around the fourth industrial revolution or Zebra specifically. Yeah, I think we're seeing lots of application. I mean, overall, let me start with the fourth industrial revolution from an automation perspective. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of automation come into the transport space. Not the least of which is some of what I was showing here robot-wise. It's probably not a surprise. You're going to see more and more automation happen inside the four walls. So if you think about a warehouse, there's some unique things about it, but it's a fairly predictable and mappable environment, right? The next place you start to see some automation is like sidewalk automation. And there's a number of companies out there doing automation down sidewalk for delivery. In fact, Domino's and others have kind of been marketing some of what they're doing there. And then certainly in the automation space, or I should say, over the road vehicle automation, the first place we're seeing that deployed is obviously there's some consumer deployment, but the regulatory issues associated with that it's going to take several years, I think, for that to kind of get to full, level 5 kind of autonomy, as it's called in consumer. But we are seeing caravan autonomy take shape in trailer transport. So what caravan is, suppose you're transporting, goods in a 53-foot trailer. You may have 3 trailers. The first one actually has a driver in it. Okay. And the next 2 trailers they're tractor trailers, but they're following the vehicle that's being driven in front of them. So you basically get some level of autonomy off the second 2 vehicles. And you could think about it almost as you have one driver driving 3 trucks. And that's a gradual way that we'll start to see that automation technology be deployed over the road. And we're working with, many of the providers in that field to leverage our technology for those purposes.
Awesome. Have another question. With all this connectivity and companies knowing everything about a person, what happens to our privacy? Have you looked into the social implications of technology?
Yeah, that's sure. Yeah, no, that's a great question. And the interesting thing about this is we have this dialogue very often from a security perspective, from a personally identifiable information perspective. It's called PII, personally identifiable information. And so we don't look to collect in all the solutions that I just described, unless it's kind of opted in. As an example, the football player, and that's actually it's an interesting little scenario on the football player example. Originally, football players in the NFL were against that locationing technology and being able to track their performance because they maybe didn't want their performance to be tracked, right? And certainly it's personally identifiable. But what happened is they opted in over time, and now it's like fully adopted. And the reason is because it enables that athlete to become a better athlete. And so much of what I spoke about, if you heard the language I used, it's about it's not how do we do something to someone, it's how do we do something for someone. Does that make sense? It's how do we make that person better? That nurse is able to return time to what they're doing. The athletes be able to learn from the way they're performing to improve their performance. The warehouse worker is able to work with the robot to get more done in less time. And so I think if you look at it through the lens, think about even just our own selves, or an Apple Watch or a Fitbit. Why do you let all that information be collected on your wrist? Well, it helps you become more healthy, or it helps you change your habits. And so think about using the data in a way that, first of all, has secure, personally identifiable information policies around it. That's one very important part. And there's a lot of regulatory and legislation around that. And the second is to use that data to enable that person, that worker, that group, that team to become better at what they do. And I think if that's our aim, like any technology, it can be used for good reasons and it can be used for bad reasons. And if you use it to enable people to become a better version of themselves, I think that's a tremendous opportunity for us going forward.
Awesome. Another question. It's kind of a comment, but I can rephrase it into a question.
Yeah.
If vendor compatibility has been a large built-in challenge with collaboration and control end-to-end and such.
Yeah, that's a really good one. So it has, and I think you're seeing, if you think about vendor compatibility, at least the way I think about it, can mean multiple things, but think about data interchange or APIs being able to connect systems together. So let's take the robot, right? The robot has got its own orchestration system to be able to navigate the environment, but it has to plug into the warehouse management system that sees the orders that are coming in, so that ultimately the order that has to be picked can get routed down to the robot, and then it can use its navigation system to get to the right place. And then it has to integrate with the worker, who maybe has scanning technology and other mobile computing technology on it. As they're scanning the item to pick, then it needs to show the worker which bin to go and put that in. So you have at least 3 or 4 different systems that have to connect together. And we've actually started to create our own library of connectors, but there's companies out there like a company called MuleSoft that was acquired by Salesforce.com, another company called Apigee, APIGEE, that was acquired by Google. And the focus by MuleSoft and Apigee and other companies like this is to create a set of industry connectors to all different systems. And if you want to, and then they create one kind of abstracted layer. So if you design your system to work to the abstracted layer, then you could plug any one of these connectors in to any one of these third-party systems. And that's accelerating the rate at which these disparate systems can become connected together. We still have a long way to go, but I think that's over the last 10 years, that's made massive improvements that have reduced deployment times and integration complexity by multiple factors, 2, 3, or 4 times simpler.
Great. Thank you. By the way, I was going to mention, with respect to the question that was asked of Tom about the privacy issues. Since this series is also co-sponsored by the IEEE, I think it would be befitting to mention that IEEE has published its latest document on ethically aligned design. So just Google search ethically aligned design, and the title of the document is A Vision for Prioritizing Human Well-Being with Autonomous and Intelligent Systems. So there's a lot of industry focus on it, as Tom mentioned, and new territory that all of us globally are charting. So with that said, I'm going to close the session today. Thank you, Tom, for exciting talk. Thank you all for participating in this event. My thanks go to colleagues who made this event happen, Dr. Rob DeFazio, Assistant Dean Jane Polizzi, Ms. Carmen Marmo Savinetti, and Ms. Sarah Hesasta. Please tune in for the next talk, as it will be advertised through the same channels you learned about this talk. Have a great afternoon. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dean.